From ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. Russian forces surrounding the last Ukrainian troops, mercenaries, and civilian holdouts at a steel factory in the port city Mariupol. Ukrainians in a town northwest of Kyiv say they want the world to see what happened there before Russian troops pulled out. ABC's Marcus Moore is there.
At one point, there were so many bodies in the streets here that they had to bury people in mass graves. And we were there today as the police exhumed some of those bodies in their effort to investigate alleged war crimes here. And among the bodies they pulled up, there was a 14-year-old girl. Her friends told us that she was shot here. We also met the grieving mother of a man. She told us her son was shot simply crossing the street.
The UN spokesman says Secretary General Guterres has written to Russia's and Ukraine's presidents asking for a meeting to discuss an end to the fighting. President Biden at the White House this past hour saying he wants to hear assessments from all his military commanders about what they're seeing in the field and around the world.
We're seeing this very day the need for adaptation as a consequence of us standing with Ukraine against Putin's brutal and unjustified war.
The White House says the CDC will weigh in soon on whether to appeal a judge's ruling that struck down the mask mandate on public transportation. While you might not have to wear a mask on an airplane, you still need to behave.
The FAA says its zero-tolerance policy against unruly passengers is here to stay. This comes as the federal mask mandate on planes and mass transit was lifted this week. Under the policy, the FAA issues fines to passengers for disruptive behavior instead of warnings. This year alone, the agency received more than 1,200 reports of unruly passengers. Nearly 800 of them were mask-related. Emlyn, ABC News.
Wildfire near Flagstaff, Arizona has ballooned and efforts are underway to save homes. You're listening to ABC News. Here's pretty much how it went when the jury's verdict was read by the judge today in the case of a doctor accused of murdering 14 dying or critically ill hospital patients by giving them a lot of prescription painkillers.
Relative to count one, we, the jury in this case, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant not guilty as to count one of the indictments.
This in Columbus, Ohio. Not guilty on all counts for Dr. William Husel. His attorneys argued he wanted to make his patients more comfortable. A terse statement from prosecutors says they accept the jury's verdict, officially reversing what had apparently become irrelevant.
The sweet sound of jazz is a staple of New Orleans, but for a century now, since 1922, it's been illegal to play in the city's public schools. A huge loss back then, says high school band director Asia Muhayman.
We probably missed out on hundreds of musicians, jazz musicians at that time that we could be reading about them today in the history book.
All these years later, the Orleans Parish School Board just rolled back the rule unanimously, historians linking it to the city's racist, segregated past, but also noting students and teachers have ignored the rule on their own anyway for years. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
In what they claim is a world's first, Japanese researchers have developed chopsticks that artificially create the taste of salt as part of efforts to reduce sodium levels in some of Japan's most popular dishes. This is ABC News.
ABC News honored winner of 9 Edward R. Murrow Awards, more than any other network, including winning the award for overall excellence in both television and radio. ABC News is America's #1 news source.